Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, February 10th. So halfway through the week, we've got 2 days left, and a couple of interesting or notable things I would say for the day. I mean, I think we had a little bit of volatility today, this morning. My opinion on that is a couple things. I think everybody knew that we had this Powell speech at 2 o'clock. And the situation with that is, I think a lot of maybe not all, but a lot of market participants are, focused on what the Fed and the Treasury, which did not speak today, but Powell spoke today, about what the guidance is going to be going forward. I think, right now everybody knows that inflation is kind of seems to be running, even though we're getting CPI data that are very CPI data that came out this morning that's very muted. But I think just kind of looking around, people are noticing inflation. So that was the number one question. I think today in Powell's speech was, what is your view on inflation and so forth? And, it seems to be every one of these Fed meetings or just, the speech today, it doesn't seem like right now the Fed is concerned about that. So it seems like it's business as usual. We're in a very accommodative situation. And the Fed's not worried about it right now, or they just can't be. We had a jobs report that came out on Friday that was very weak, and they seem to have backed themselves in a corner. I was talking about this on Bloomberg TV earlier, but the segments on there are very quick. But so I think that's the main driver right now in the market is that you've got really low interest rates and you've got a lot of stimulus. And you notice what the market did earlier, and it's just a little bit of hesitation. I think people want to come in and kind of take some profits ahead of when he speaks, just in case he is going to change that guidance. So it's an interesting place that we're at right now. And I think for now, my tact is, because we don't really know how this is going to shape up in the months to come, is just to be kind of responsible about trading and be realistic and be disciplined. And I know that, right now, I think some traders and you can are getting rewarded for not being disciplined, and you're able to kind of make a lot of mistakes and be able to recover quite easy from it. But sometimes the experience works for you and against you. So my experience just kind of tells me to be stay disciplined and stay doing what I'm doing, and and I'm quite happy kind of doing that and executing that plan on a day-to-day basis. So let's talk a little bit about the price action for the day. Flat. We're actually S&P futures finished up on the day. SPY finished down, so I guess that's technically down for the day. But you could see the price action, right? This was the move on the CPI data, and it seemed like anytime this happens, maybe not any time, but most of the time, I'm usually a net seller, on the open, and I try to take some risk off. It just seems like, once we go back to one of my sayings that, has empirical evidence, is that the majority of the moves in the indices happen in the overnight markets. So that's where we were. And again, profit takers kind of come in, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say dangerous, but, after a big move, right? And if we're seeing these big moves in the after hours market, which again, I think that there should be, considering what China did overnight, right? China, which again, it seems to get less attention these days, but China was up over 2% last night. So of course the S&P futures are going to be up a little bit. So I think that's a combination of things. That's my little bit of market explanation about why the market got had a little bit of a hiccup today. But I would say on the positive side is you notice that this red line was taken out, right? That's a version point of control. There's another one down here, but we held firmly, right? So the market kind of seeks these things out, right? And that was my first take was, hey, let's kind of see where we go. And if you kind of look too, notice that we started the week above value on the 1 hour, right? And we actually touched this mid candle, So again, this gives us a roadmap. Every day I send these levels out to TTG members, and 3887 was a really good level to kind of watch for the day. Now we didn't really do much after we bounced from here. There's a little bit of trade opportunities, a little bit of buy the dip opportunities, but I think what I was trying to reiterate pre-market was that, hey, I'm going to be selling into this because we've had a number of days that have been very, very strong. So that was my message pre-market. I hope it helps some traders. Sometimes I do get a little bit conservative, but when we're up six to 8 days in a row, I think you have to be realistic. And if you look to see how I kind of traded this morning, I try to take as many profits as possible. This was a weekly call spread. I try to get out of short-term risk, right? So I got out of this call spread that I put on last week in TTD for $12, paid $6.60. I did think TTD could continue, and I tried putting on a little bit of a stock trade, but I got stopped out of that, right? So I do look to kind of, have some of my names, I look for continuation and try to have them run. Airbnb was a nice trade too. I was talking about in yesterday's video that I missed the target. Well, today I got it, right? And I just decided to get out of Airbnb for now, take my profits. And this thing did close at 211, so I would have been all right. But I'm glad to kind of get that second chance from today and take my profits. So that was nice. Where's this exit? Yeah, yeah. I got out at 210. So I actually caught like close to the high of the day. So I'm pretty happy with that. I wanted to play a little bit of China, considering that's kind of what I tend to look for when China is really strong overnight. I do think that the ADRs can move pretty decently. So we did see some call buying in a few different names. I decided to get out of this one. I did take one target at 1910 and then got out of this once it kind of got back to my cost. I kept in this one. This is a new one. BEKE. Again, kind of stalled out there in the beginning of the day, but I like the pattern here. It did close above value, just barely. Not the best looking candle in the world, but I want to give this one a shot here because I think that I think China. I continue to try to position in a couple different Chinese names here and there. LMND. I was in an option trade yesterday, worked very well. I turned it over to a stock trade. I've got one target in it, and then I took the remainder of the trade off. Again, it was just playing a little bit of wait and see, right? I do that sometimes. When the context of the market changes just a little bit, like when we lose that upside momentum that we've been building on for multiple days, I tend to kind of sit back and watch a little bit, right? And I look for some entry points in some names that I've been watching for the last couple days. But when we've been going, hard to the upside for a while, and we lose that momentum, right? It's kind of like, an analogy that I use a lot is like, when you've got the accelerator down on a car, and you take your foot off the gas, sometimes the market will pull back, and it's tough to like get the car going again, right? So I tend to kind of just step back and watch a little bit, and kind of go from there. So you could see from that point on, I really didn't trade much other than trying to be a net seller. I got out of Open, which I talked about that in yesterday's video, $11, 780. I did roll that to some stock. Again, I've been doing this a lot, where if I can make money on something where I've been in a swing trade for a few days and it works, I get close to like a double or a really nice winner off an option trade. I'll take that money and put it into stock, and then trade that versus a nice stop level and play with the profits like that. It's a kind of different strategy that I've been using the last few months. It's worked pretty well for me. Nvidia, this is a name too. I took a target in this one. I was on Bloomberg. This was my trade idea that I discussed in Nvidia. My thought on this one is, and I basically caught, I had a chase on day one a little bit. I think my price was around 570 or something like that. But again, sometimes you chase the first move. I'm not afraid to chase the first day it moves. And now we've got some nice continuation and got almost out to 600. So I took some profits in the stock trade that I had on, and I put on a call spread. So this was the trade that I mentioned on Bloomberg TV. Just to have a little bit of a piece of a spread here, where again it's defined risk. I can only lose $3.60, and what I'm looking for is if this thing extends, and I have this on for another 2 days and a week. Right, I'm looking for continuation out of that. I also noticed some nice strength in the cyber group today. So I've been long this sale. It hasn't really done much, but it did start to move. Palo Alto is another name, up slightly, did not close on the highs. And Crowd, which has been moving up nicely, but has been kind of quiet, right? Has been a nice grinding name, but but hasn't had huge momentum to it. Closed right about the top of value. So it's Crowd is one of my favorite names that I like to traffic in a lot. So I decided to take a little bit of a starter position in that one today out to March, and that's something that I'll scale into, provided that this thing can kind of break out. Notice a little bit higher volume. All right, and that's it. I also mentioned in yesterday's video that the micro caps were super overbought. Notice that they did come down today, down 1.4%. Now they didn't lose any of the short-term moving averages, but again, I think that some of these areas they needed to cool. Right, small caps down, a little bit on the day. It's tough. We have been seeing some puts go up in IWM, but a move like this, right? I mean, they've been buying puts all the way up here. So don't let people fool you. I know that this is a game that people play on Twitter when they mention like 100 different option trades, and then they go back to like any one that works. They mention it, but they don't mention the other 91s, right? So there's been some hedging and some put buying in IWM, but I could tell you're going to need a lot bigger move than this for puts to work. So don't let these guys try to confuse you with saying, oh yeah, there was puts in IWM bought. Well, they didn't make any money on those puts because those puts were bought right in here. So it's just funny how Twitter works. What did perform pretty well today? Oil and gas names stayed up right around the high of the day, up 2.2%. So they were down yesterday. They cooled down yesterday, but they were strong. And then another crazy move. I have the pot stocks down 3.7%, but for the day they were up 14%. So again, a lot of moves happening in the overnight, in the after hours move. During the cash session, they fell, kind of all over the place. Also, clean energy stocks too took a break today too. They were actually down 2%. Biotech was down 2%. So again, depending on what groups you're in, there's a lot of separation, between sectors. Solar was down 2%. Metals and mining also was down a little bit too. So, my plan or my bottom line here at the end of this video, because I'm not showing any major setups, is just to kind of see if this market wants to consolidate a little bit. I've had a really good beginning of the month, right? It's only the 10th of the month, and I'm up very nicely. So, I talked a lot about this earlier, today. Is you have to kind of weigh the risk with the reward always, and think about probabilities in trading, right? And we've been up 6. I counted yesterday as an up day, but you have to think about after 7 green days and a lot of stocks extended. Is it worth, participating here a little bit for day trades, or is it worth putting on a lot of risk, right? You have to always ask yourself as a trader, investor, whether or not you think that this is a great place to add risk, or if it's a place to kind of take a little bit off the table and wait for this market to kind of come in a little bit and some of the names that are really extended to consolidate a little bit of those gains. That's my opinion. That's kind of what I'm doing. Now, I still have positions on, but I love selling into strength. And that's basically what I did this morning. So another up day for me today, not a huge day. I was up a lot more around the open because, again, I'm not selling everything when I trim, and get myself to a nice place in terms of cash balance. But still, nice day overall. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.